While Woo-hyuk seems to believe that the guy really has found his brother, he asks who the hell he is. Thinking like an ultimate bamboozler, Ojin decides to unleash the Hound, a feral one, who will rip his enemies' throats on his behalf. Killing two birds with one stone, our guy introduces himself as Yujin, awakening the Hound that goes by the name Lee Woo-hyuk. We are then taken to Lee Woo-hyuk's past, where he narrates that when he was younger, his brother Shin-hyuk was better than him at everything. Woo-hyuk for the most part was obsessed with his older brother and things that were difficult for him, Shin-hyuk could do easily. At the time, he looked like a superhuman to him, but then things changed when the real superhumans appeared. It turns out that Woo-hyuk had become a disciple of Leo, and unlike him, who became a metahuman of Leo, one of the 12 constellations, Shin-hyuk wasn't chosen by any constellation. With the sense of shame from being protected by someone he normally would be taking care of, Shin-hyuk grew sick from that weight. Meanwhile, Woo-hyuk was absorbed in his newly changed self. Just then, they realized that their relationship had distanced, and Woo-hyuk understood him since he too held an inferiority complex to him before he awakened. That's how their relationship slowly distanced and became awkward. Eventually, in that process, his older brother awakens too as he gets Pixis's stigma, and this makes Lee Woo-hyuk truly happy to think their relationship could go back to how it was before. After that, Woo-hyuk gifts his brother a spear that he worked to have manufactured using high-class myrrh crystals, and Shin-hyuk totally falls in love with the spear as it's green, which he likes, and promises his brother to use it well. Coming to the present scene, Woo-hyuk is flabbergasted when he analyzes the silver spear blade and green myrrh crystal adornment, which is the only one in the world, a spear made for his older brother. Hopping mad, Woo-hyuk shouts the phone and asks who this motherfucker is while Ojin fakes his identity, introducing himself as Yujin, who was a member of the Dark Stars Society. While Woo-hyuk asks him what he wants, our guy cuts to the chase and instructs him to prepare 3 billion won in cash and come to the observatory near the peak of Bagan Mountain, warning him to come by himself, or else he'll know the consequences if he brings someone else. It seems like Woo-hyuk doesn't take this well, driving him stark raving mad. He shouts vehemently as his stigma reverberates through the room like an earthquake. With a dead serious look in his eyes, Woo-hyuk instructs Seon-young to contact the association immediately and summon all the guild members who are out at the gates right now. In the next scene, our main character writes all the information about Yujin and hands it to the team leader so that he can give them to Valhalla Guild. After that, Ojin presumes that Woo-hyuk was faster than he expected, guessing that he'd be contacted since missing people commissions are done through the association, but it didn't even take a day. In addition, the team leader Han Junmin, who heard the name Yujin from him, called him immediately, reckoning that Han must suspect why a kidnapper would reveal their name and what kind of backup they had to threaten a strong person like Lee Woo-hyuk. He seems to have had no choice but to move as he had the definite evidence of the spear. Just after that, Han calls it a crazy coincidence to think that the metahuman who started a fight with Ojin would be urgently sought after by the Valhalla Guild. With that, the team leader mentions that the guild has request for direct support, as they needed urgent help with constructing the siege force around the entirety of Bagan Mountain. While he assures that Ojin doesn't need to participate, our guy shockingly says that he'll participate. Well, it looks like things turned out exactly how Ojin wanted to, as now he'll be heading to the Bagan Mountain. With so much thrill, our guy waits for the moment when Lee Woo-hyuk and Yujin meet, living to see that terrible moment. The next scene switches to the Dark Star Society branch, where we witness Yujin torturing one of his henchmen. Bleeding, the henchman speaks up that he's found a clue and reveals that 3 days ago he searched the area that a member he lost contact with was investigating and backtracked the surrounding CCTVs. The guy came out of the building that only association members could enter and was confirmed to be headed toward Mokdong. Yujin interrogates him about the guy, asking if was a member of the association, but the henchman doesn't seem so sure about it, because after that, he does a stakeout near the situation and checks whether he is commuting. But the guy doesn't appear. While Yujin confirms that the guy was not a member of the association, he speculates about this guy who's not a member of the association, but he came out of the building that's only for association members, finding it suspicious. Getting an ominous feeling about who that guy is, his thoughts are interrupted by another henchman who informs Yujin that someone who looks like a gatherer is approaching this area. Just then, Yujin decides to deal with that guy himself and heads out of the observatory. At that moment, he witnesses Lee Shin-hyuk's spear placed outside, but he doesn't seem to care and moves along. Encountering with the gatherer, Yujin asks the guy if he's lost and warns him that it's dangerous out here. Meanwhile, the guy disguised as a farmer keenly looks at the cloaked guy, while Yujin finds the guy suspicious. At that moment, someone informs the guildmaster about finding Lee Shin-hyuk's spear. As all the things begin to unravel, a powerful force hits Yujin as the farmer reveals himself. Recognizing his face, Yujin is stunned as he witnesses Black Lion Lee Woo-hyuk standing in front of him. Well aware that he's the guildmaster of the Valhalla Guild whom people discuss to be the next 7 Stars member, Eugen wonders what someone like him is doing here. Just then, Lee asks him if he wants money, saying that prepared it all in cash. At that moment, he draws out the sword and claims that if he wants money then try to take it. With that, Woo-hyuk soars with his sword charged with a powerful stigma and crosses over him. As Eugen is surprised at what has just happened, he speculates that there are others too, and to his surprise, Lee calls out to everyone, announcing to charge, and in a flash, the siege force appears and attacks the observatory. Meanwhile, they are destroying their branch. Lee Woo-hyuk strides towards Eugen and mutters that he must have thought he'd fallen into his trap. With a callous stare, Lee questions where his brother is and poor Eugen is left speechless, wondering why he's asking him that. On the contrary, Eugen seems to be near the area as he observes the flames erupting from there. The scene then switches to Lee, who strikes at Eugen with his stigma powers, and the guy seems to be struggling as he can barely protect himself from the stigma. Just then, Eugen realizes that Lee is stronger, and he's not someone he could ever win against. Despite the situation, Eugen gets the hunch that something is strange as he ponders why Lee Woo-hyuk is here. Feeling utterly baffled about the money and his brother, the guy snaps out of it when he is smacked by Woo-hyuk and crashes on the ground. As Lee hits him, he sees it as a disappointment that the guy is so unskilled and is even thinking of killing him. As soon as Eugen hears this, he becomes certain that he's being framed and someone is using the Black Lion. However, the realization hits him too late when Woo-hyuk slashes the sword on his chest, and the poor guy tries to explain that he didn't do anything, saying that it's bullshit. The Black Lion seems to be out of his mind while Eugen, bleeding his mouth, reckons that Woo-hyuk is convinced that he's the culprit. Thinking that he would die at this rate, the guy casts the Black Shower of Blossoms. While Woo-hyuk knows that it won't work on him, he dashes towards him at full speed. Surrounded by his stigma, Eugen stabs himself with the sword, and suddenly, Lee halts as he witnesses Eugen disappear, thinking where he'd go. Luckily, Eugen teleports to another place and makes it out alive, somewhere inside the forest. Gravely injured, while his body seems to be a mess, he uses the previous holy relic and assumes that his subordinates are losing the fight too. Cursing, the guy is done with dealing one crisis to another as now their hiding spot has been exposed, and even his subordinates are dying. He thinks hard about the person who's behind this all, and knows that he'll be killed by the Owl King if he goes back. With no way to escape, Eugen plans on contacting Ashad Khan to request him for help. However, he is overwhelmed with another surprise as he is found by none other than the real culprit, Kwon Eugen. Approaching him, Eugen says that he must have had quite a hard time, looking like a mess. Shocked to see him, Eugen asks what he's doing here, and that's when he comes to realize that it's all because of him. While our guy asks him if he just realized why he's here, he leaps toward him with the spear and tells him not to resist as he will end it quietly for him. Commanding that bastard settle down, Eugen strikes his powers at him, but Eugen, with the strength he's left with, uses his stigma to stop the attack. Seeing that he's still full of energy, our guy uses more of his stigma, given that it would be difficult for Eugen to move this fiercely. Just as the guy appears to be weak as he bleeds, Eugen takes the chance and attacks him with blue lighting power. Eventually our guy kills Eugen and gets disappointed as he doesn't find many great harvests. He speculates that this guy had a ban on him because whenever he asked him about the important info on the Dark Star Society, he kept convulsing. Nonetheless, he retrieves little information about Eugen, who was a low-ranked administrative official, and he serves someone called Bailiff, also getting his hands on Ashad Khan's info, his administrative colleague. But Eugen decides that he won't be using this info right now since he doesn't need to get involved with the Dark Star Society if they're not chasing him this time. At that moment, his stammer instincts kick in and ruminate that it isn't weird at all for the heavenly demon who causes this world ruin to appear in a suspicious organization like this. Giving birth to a new evil maneuver, he anticipates that this heinous organization that will give birth to the heavenly demon gives all the right to the regressor to take an action against them, referring to himself. Thinking that his plan is a bit far-fetched, Eugen is aware of the fact they're a powerful society, but it truly exceeds his expectations, even with this guy Eugen. If it hadn't been for Lee Woo-hyuk, he wouldn't have been able to face him alone. He concludes, presuming that if a low-ranked administrative official is at that level, the bailiff might be as strong as the Great Dipper. Later, while trying to find something, Eugen invades the dead guy's privacy and finds 2 fist-sized myrrh crystals, hitting the jackpot. Feeling over the moon, our guy gets a little bit too excited to find more of them that he even makes the dead guy naked. Disappointed, he doesn't find anything valuable but a stigma on his chest. Touching his stigma, the black heavens absorb Strix's stigma. On the other side, we are taken to a soul station that seems to be going down in flames. We witness Lee Shin-yuk asking his brother to go where Seo-young is while he will buy them some time. Clueless about what he's talking about, Shinyuk seems to know that Woo-hyuk likes her and tells him to hurry. Just like that, Lee Shinyuk dashes along with his spear and slashes the monster apart. However, confronts another giant monster and ponders upon the situation. Assuming that if he knew ahead of time that such a disgusting thing was sealed under Seoul Station, he would definitely have been able to prevent this. The scene then switches up to Ojin, screaming out of pain, and it comes about that he was inside Lee Shinyuk's memories that always leave him feeling like shit. Meanwhile, our guy successfully inherits part of metahuman Lee Shinyuk's records. His abilities also level up, and acquires a new ability known as Eternal Convergence. Wondering what his new skill is about, Ojin gets to know that if he raises the proficiency of Lyra's stigma, his other stigmas will also improve. Well, he then decides to check out his new ability, and uses his new Strix's stigma for the first time, which already feels strong. Impressed, he finds the ability quite incredible, as even though he's not familiar with Strix's stigma as much as he is with Lyra's stigma, the proficiency of the stigma can be partially raised without any conditions. Just like that, he thinks of focusing on Lyra's stigma without needing to train others, and now that he's done with everything, he decides to end it. Feeling scared, Ojin does something that causes him pain and he blacks out. Moments later, Han finds him collapsed on the ground and cures him with the help of the potion. When our guy finally gains consciousness, the area is occupied by the people who search for more casualties, finding 10 injured people. Asking where he is, the team leader informs him that at the place where he fought with the culprit, adding that the ambulance is on the way. However, Ojin refuses to get treated and assures the team leader that he's fine. It turns out that our guy gives himself the injury, so it would seem like he suffered, pulling the ultimate scammer move. After that, Ojin approaches Lee Woo-hyuk and decides to end the act of this play. Lee Woo-hyuk interrogates Ojin and questions him if this bastard Yujin said something before he died. With all the plot figured out, our guy says that he said nothing in particular. However, he managed to confirm the direction he was escaping in, adding that it was as if he was hiding. He informs Lee that he will be able to find his brother if he moves in that direction, taking him to the stage. Woo-hyuk witnesses the corpse of his brother Lee Shinyuk and bursts into tears. Meanwhile, Ojin watches him mourning his brother's death. He contemplates that the corpse isn't Lee Shinyuk, but one of the Dark Star Society bastards who was following him, believing that he is totally unrelated to Lee's death. Our guy convinces himself that Shinyuk actually pushed him into the horde of Anthorns and tried to escape alone, and the fact that he both died and regressed on his own, even though he thinks of himself as the victim, our guy finds himself guilty. The next scene takes us to 1 week later, at the Valhalla Guild, where Ojin meets with the guildmaster at his request. While Woo-hyuk apologizes for being unable to properly greet him before, our guy witnesses his trembling hands from the trauma he'd been through, and thinks that there's no way he'd be able to resolve his emotions in 1 week. After that, the guildmaster lets out the reason for calling him here and expresses his gratitude, muttering if it wasn't for Ojin he would have lost the enemy who killed his brother. Just then, Seonyoung comes in with a briefcase which is loaded with cash, and that's when Woo-hyuk reveals that it's 3 billion won that the kidnappers requested, so he's giving it all to Ojin as a reward for catching Yujin. Trying to act calm, our guy expresses that it's a bit excessive for a reward, and Lee doesn't deny that, which leads Ojin to conclude that he has a different reason for rewarding this much. The guildmaster then confirms if Ojin is the disciple of Polaris, to which our boy agrees. Getting to the point, Woo-hyuk lets out that he heard that Ojin was attacked by the Dark Star Society a while ago, and confesses that the Valhalla Guild plans on finding the roots of the society and eradicating it. For that reason, he wants him, the disciple of Polaris, to help them with this. Upon hearing this, Ojin seems to hit the bullseye and thinks how lucky he is, as he was planning on dealing with the Dark Star Society eventually, and receiving the 3 billion won and the reliable help of Woo-hyuk. There's no reason for him to refuse and agree to assist in Lee's plan. Just then, Lee asks him if he knows something about the Dark Star Society, and while the timing is perfect, Ojin hands him the contact information of Ashad Khan, one of the society's managers. At the association, Han gets to know that Ojin will be investigating the Dark Star Society alongside the Valhalla Guild from now on. On that note, our guy seems to have something he wanted to ask Han, and shows him the details of the spear made of strengthened silver, mixed with myrrh crystals and a wired fire function. Catching on, Han guesses that he's talking about spear gun and looks at the diagram of the spear. He mutters that the little kid will like this a lot. While our guy wonders who's the little kid, the team leader assures him that he will put this through to the equipment manufacturing team. As Han speaks about the price, our guy loses his shit as he knows that it will be fucking expensive, and there's no way it'd be cheap since it's made with whole silver strengthened by myrrh crystals, and is an extraordinary piece of equipment that combines a spear and a wire shooter. However, Ojin is left speechless when Han assures him that the association will care of the price. saying that he contributed greatly to the cooperative operation with the Valhalla Guild. Listening to this, our guy is completely awestruck as he looks at Han with sparkly eyes and opens his arm for a big hug, but his affectionate hug is stopped by the team leader as he grabs his face and tells him to calm down for now. After that, Han asks him about another thing at the end, saying that it isn't something he'd use, but our guy informs him that he needs one and instructs him to find the best quality. As the team leader affirms that the association will cover the expenses of that as well, Ojin immediately refuses and clarifies that he will buy it with his own money. Later, Ojin gets back home and scares the life out of Song as he sneaks up on her, questioning if she is listening to songs. Freaked out, Song immediately hides her phone while our guy catches her off guard, knowing that it wasn't music. Meanwhile, Han is sure that he's thinking of something annoying. Our guy heads to wash up and teases her, saying that she's at the age and he's heard that there are a lot of things people enjoy through audio these days. As Ojin goes to wash up, the girl takes out her phone, and it turns out that she's listening to the Yongsun Auction's house list of relics to exhibit in December, and plans to participate to purchase Dragon Demon Eyes, without Ojin knowing about this. The next scene takes us to Ojin, who is working out while he contemplates the conversation with team leader Han, who informs him about the appraisal result of the relic he found back in the Mokdong Gate, revealing that it's a 3-star relic and has the effect of helping with mana recovery. Just then, Han asks him if he will be using this relic, but our guy refuses and tells him to sell it along with the myrrh crystals. Ojin presumes that he's lucky for the Dark Star Society, as he thought the relic would only be ranked around 1 or 2 stars. Calculating the amount after selling all the amount, Han lets out that Ojin will receive around 1.8 billion won. Being in 7th heaven, our guy is happy as ever as he ponders that, along with the money he got from Li Wuxiuk and combines the money he's earned over the last few years, he might be able to buy that thing. However, Ojin still seems to make 3 billion more and he can arrive in paradise. After that, our boy asks for one last favor from the leader, and that is a map of the sewers below the Soul Station. Nonetheless, his moment of contemplation is interrupted when he hears a strange voice asking him where he decided to make the remaining money from, and it turns out that Vega is back. Ojin tells her that he's awaiting her and dramatizes what happened in the last 3 weeks, explaining it to Vega. After listening to the whole story, the goddess asks him if the owner of the Black Heavens is within the Dark Star Society, to which Ojin asserts that it's just a guess. As he continues to make assumptions, our guy presumes if he talks like he knows too much, it might come back to him, so he decides to just be moderate. Worried, Vega thinks that he needs more time to get stronger, given that he's now linked with such ominous people, but he assures her, saying that he has a strategy to face them all. At that moment, Ojin curiously questions about who are the bastard constellations of the Dark Star, wondering what was the specific age when all the stars were swallowed by darkness. Hoping that the goddess would answer, to his disappointment, Vega informs him that she doesn't know about it either, as she doesn't know everything about the birth of stars just because she's a goddess. While Ojin is kinda shocked to know that Vega doesn't know about this, he realizes that he can only learn more about this from Dark Star Society bastards. Anyways, the goddess requests him to see how much he've changed in the past 3 weeks, and our guy incredibly flaunts his power, using the spear lighting skill. After the classic demo, Ojin waits for Vega's remarks, who is bewildered as to how he already has gotten the basics of exceeding, even if he's a regressor. This puts Ojin in a tough spot as he thinks something is wrong while the goddess wonders how he is able to focus lighting in 3 different places. Meanwhile, our guy tries to justify that he practiced and it worked, saying that he suffered in the start. Thinking hard, Vega still finds it impossible as she recalls that Ojin's memories of the techniques of Lyra's stigma were blurry. But then, she comes to a conclusion, affirming that although his memories are blurry, it seems he's subconsciously remembering the techniques. While Vega sorts it out herself, our guy takes a sigh of relief, thinking that he did nothing wrong but low-key thanks the goddess for deluding herself like that. He then asks Vega if it's surprising as he doesn't really know himself, and the goddess gets mad at him for questioning her, clarifying that she hasn't created any disciples until now, just because her Lyra's stigma is one that humans cannot handle. As the goddess is scolding him, he gets a call from team leader Han. Arriving at the association, Han hands him the items he had requested. It occurs to be his new weapon, the silver spear, which is made way better than he expected. Meanwhile, Ojin gets reminded of Han telling about some kid who made these weapons. He plans to meet him later and compliment him. Looking at the spear gun in his hand, Vega assumes that if he uses the rope to tie up his enemies and electrocute them, it will be very threatening. But Ojin tells her that there's more to it and throws the wire which clings on the wall, warning Vega to hold on tight. He glides in the air while the goddess screams her heart out. Taken aback, Vega thinks that he just came up with a new flying method as he can't fly yet. Roaming like a spider throughout the city, our guy seems to be enjoying himself and asks the goddess if he can fly using the Lyra's stigma. To his surprise, Vega reveals that he can fly using the Thunder Steps technique that he can't use yet, and Ojin is left speechless, thinking if would have done this bullshit only if he knew about this. Frightened to death, the goddess asks him if they are heading back home, but our guy refuses, and reckons that now that he has new equipment and Vega with him, there's no need to dawdle anymore, telling the goddess they're going to Soul Station. The next scene takes us to the shop, where Ojin buys many items along with the potions, which leaves him to pay 7 million for these items. Speaking under his breath, our guy calls them fucking thieves, but he changes his choice of words, saying that his items are great. With that, his skill-lame excuses level up and our guy starts haggling with the vendor, saying that he only has 6 million won. Pissed off, the vendor makes it 6.5, clarifying that she can't go lower than this. Eventually, they settle on 6.7 million won, and Ojin looks disappointed as he could have negotiated better than that, while Vega can't resist that he sure is determined when it comes to money, justifying that he needs to save whenever he can. Vega feels bad as she can't be of any help when it comes to me, while Ojin assures her that she's plenty helpful enough. He low-key feels happy as he got a shocking amount of money after becoming Polaris's priest. Being done with the preparations, they decide to head down the sewers of Soul Station. Moving inside the sewer, Vega asks him if he doesn't know the exact location, to which Ojin informs her that this entire place broke down last time because the seal was undone. Either way, he seems to be certain that it's somewhere here. Curious, the goddess questions if he can really defeat the monster, and our guy affirms that the monster is sealed right now, which leads Vega to conclude that he's planning to eliminate the monster before it wakes up. Just expected of a regressor. Well, it looks like Ojin plans to kill the unsealed monster because he knows that he will definitely end up dead if he fights that monster right now. But if it's sealed, it's nothing more than an oversized sandbag. While his feet are soaked in sewer water, our guy regrets not bringing boots if he'd known he would get lost, and doesn't even have the courage to use Cain's Venatice's stigma amid all this stench. Suddenly Vega feels something ominous on the other side of the sewer, and Ojin tells her that it's supposed to be a dead end according to the map. He then asks the goddess if it's the same energy as before in the cave, and Vega describes that it's definitely similar, saying that it's more like a nail stabbing her. Hearing this, Ojin ponders that might be related to the Dark Star's power again, and maybe that has something to do with the fact that mutant myrrh crystals are being found so often lately. Just then, they decide to check it out, and as soon as our guy flashes the torch in that direction, he witnesses something horrendous. He confronts two reptile-like monsters, and wonders if they are mutants as their skin color is different. Without wasting time, he gets into action and thinks that it's a great time to warm up, using the spear lightning with his new silver spear. Meanwhile, the mutant forms a resistant layer to avoid damage. However, our guy realizes that it won't work because this spear can be completely electrified, unlike Lee Shin-yuk's spear, and with that, he electrocutes the mutants. After dealing with the two mutants, several of them begin to appear from that dead end, and Ojin braces himself to fight them. Using the spear gun, he soars over them and thinks that even if these mutants have some intelligence, they're no match for him. Just like that, he jaw-droppingly wipes them out using spear lightning. Suddenly, Ojin gets attacked as something throws two mutant monsters at him. However, he manages to dodge with his spear gun. The giant monster appears to be a reptilian champion. At that moment, all the mutants leap towards him while our guy recovers the wire, as it won't help him much. While he deals with the mutant and electrocutes them using the spear, he charges the spear with immense power and stabs it directly at the reptilian champion, effortlessly killing it. After annihilating all the mutants, Ojin gets to his favorite work, picking up the loot. To his anticipation, he finds a small black myrrh crystal and feels like he's more used to these ones, because of how often he has been coming across abnormal myrrh crystals. The goddess then asks him if he knows something about these ominous crystals, but our guy doesn't seem to know much about them, saying that he never knew this kind existed in his first life. However, Ojin speculates that there's certainly a correlation between the mutants and the Dark Star, thinking that it's impossible for mutant monsters to just coincidentally appear in such large numbers in the gate, where the relic that possessed the Dark Star's power is. Nonetheless, our boy decides to move forward even though he doesn't have a good feeling about this. Thinking that the mutant myrrh crystals are more expensive and could get him more money, he seems very desperate when it comes to money. Just like that, they move along and see the end of the path. Entering that path, they are surprised to see such a spacious space, and that's when Ojin witnesses the monster from Lee Shin-yuk's memories. Peeking at the giant sealed monster, our guy affirms to Vega that it's the very monster that destroyed Soul Station in his life. Ojin reckons that the monster is intimidating, but it's small. It's only half of the size of what he saw in Shin-yuk's memories. Assuming that its myrrh crystal will be much smaller too, the guy tries attacking it, but there's no reaction, just as he expected. Realizing that the idiot monster can't even move, Ojin thinks that it will be a piece of cake. Getting cocky, he uses his spear gun and glides towards the monster with his spear. Thanking Lee Shinyuk, our guy feels on cloud 9 as he gets to use the stupid monster as a stress-relieving punching bag while getting money for it. However, his happiness is ruined when he witnesses the monster moving. Ojin tries to deny the fact and thinks there might be a mistake, so he closes his eyes for a second. When he opens his eyes at the next moment, the monster roars at him with its mouth open wide, nearly shitting his pants. Ojin wonders why this piece of shit is moving, and just hearing it scream gives him the chills. Standing stiff, he tries to figure out how to defeat the monster and blames Lee Shinyuk, who said he could have stopped him if he knew beforehand, thinking that the bastard was just bluffing. It's like saying if he could turn back time, he'd ace the exams. Just then, Vega gives an annoying look and asks the regressor what is happening. Ojin, appearing calm on the outside, tells the goddess that he expected this to happen and asks her to wait so that he can get it over with quickly. However, our guy is on the verge of a breakdown, screaming inside, as he never saw this coming, and Loki begs Vega to save him, witnessing his death ahead. Meanwhile, Ojin braces himself for the attack. In the blink of an eye, the monster strikes at him, but thanks to his spear gun, our guy saves himself from being smashed. Ojin realizes that it's unbelievably fast and keeps flying above the monster until he finds the spot to jump on it. Jumping onto the slimy monster, there's one thing Ojin seems to be aiming for as he charges his spear with thunderbolt power and strikes it exactly where the black myrrh crystal is located. As Ojin successfully stabs the spear, unexpectedly, the monster grabs him, leaving our guy in utter shock as he is a dead meat now. Things take an unexpected turn when Ojin is locked in a grapple by the monster. While our guy struggles to move, he somehow pulls out his gun and shoots that piece of shit.